Hi, my name is Matthew Ray. I worked part-time with Jeff Lefebvre on the Skyhook project to develop a prototype SQL processing front-end API in Python for user applications that want to directly execute SQL queries in Python. Skyhook is a data management system that extends Ceph object storage with programmability directly in the storage level. The project currently has in development a client layer application programming interface with the Apache Arrow dataset API. This is being done by building a Rados fragment for Skyhook's functionality. My project in particular is something of a prototype of what this functionality may take the form of in the future. Specifically, I implemented a Python submodule, Skyhook SQL, for the existing Skyhook Python interface. The goals of this project are as follows. Skyhook is able to execute SQL queries. However, this is at the cost of the queries being complicated command line commands instead of actual SQL queries. This needs to be simplified. To do so, Skyhook should have an accessible way to input direct SQL queries. This is accomplished by providing an API for user applications that enables this functionality. Furthermore, Skyhook SQL needs to be coalesced with the existing Python interface for Skyhook. Skyhook SQL's functionality is first implemented as a query submodule to the existing interface. Then, we provide an API to the submodule and query interface API. The submodule contains multiple modules of its own, models, parsers, and engines. A model is an intermediate representation of SQL that an engine may use. The current model that is supported is SQLIR, or SQL Intermediate Representation. This representation is engine agnostic, but more models may be added to fit an engine's particular needs. The parsers module includes a SQL to SQLIR parser. Finally, the engines module exposes a Skyhook engine that handles the execution of SQLIR queries. The classes of the submodule are not intended to be accessible by user applications, so they are exposed via the Query Interface API. This API is an API that user applications may import. First, let's tackle SQLIR. SQLIR is designed to capture the basic semantics of SQL statements and be engine agnostic. Any engine that uses SQLIR will need to perform some final transformations on the intermediate representation before it can execute the query. But the benefit is that no parsing of SQL is necessary for the engine. How the engine applies SQLIR is up to the engine. An added benefit of the SQLIR is that it provides type checking for engines that would otherwise fail if it was not supplied with SQLIR. Next is the SQLIR parser. It is a parser that will translate SQL statements into SQL intermediate representation. It supports the basic syntax necessary to interact with Skyhook at this time. Selection and projection queries are supported, including compound selection. You can create an index to perform queries on, and you can access the metadata of a table using the describe statement. An engine is a class that performs the final execution of a query by the storage system. Skyhook specifically has to execute its queries using the run query binary included with the project. However, a library that abstracts this binary is in development and can be used by Skyhook SQL to execute SQLIR queries instead. Currently, results are returned in formatted CSV, but in the future, implementation of SQL processing for Skyhook will include the option to determine what format you would prefer your results in. Lastly, the engines module includes a dataset options class. This class may be used if you need to collect the metadata of a dataset, such as its schema, stored in the data management system. At the time of this presentation, though, this class is tailored to work only with Skyhook. The query submodule's capabilities are available to applications via the query interface. This serves as a front-end to applications that wish to only access Skyhook at a high level using SQL directly. The API provides methods to translate SQL to SQLIR, retrieve engine-specific and data-specific options, and run SQLIR using the specified options. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me by email.